You wake up, check your phone, and immediately feel the weight of the world. On the surface, things might seem fine. You have a job, a home, and people who care. Yet, there is a persistent, quiet ache in your chest. You feel lost. It is as if you are playing a role in a movie where you forgot the script. You spend your days carefully choosing your words and picking out clothes that project the right image. This is the hunt for external validation, a game with no winners. Every time you mold yourself to fit in, a small part of your true self fades away. You seek a sense of belonging, but the more you try to fit the mold, the more isolated you feel inside. This struggle stems from a deep-seated fear of judgment. We have this paradox of control, where we believe that if we plan enough, we will be safe. We think that if we can manage how every person perceives us, we can avoid the pain of rejection. In the 16th century, Michel de Montaigne looked at this same human circus and decided he had seen enough. He was a nobleman, but he felt the exhaustion of the mask of validation. He chose to withdraw from the busy world of politics to live in a stone tower in France. He didn't go there to hide. He went there to study the one thing he didn't know: his own soul. Montaigne realized that trying to control the world is a Herculean effort that eventually breaks the spirit. Think about the energy you spend worrying about a conversation from 3 days ago. This constant management of perceptions is like carrying a heavy stone uphill. It drains the vitality you need for things that actually matter, like creation, friendship, and love. When you are obsessed with how you are seen, you lose the ability to actually see. You become so busy acting that you forget how to exist. The energy required to maintain the mask leaves you empty, which is why, even when life is technically good, it feels hollow. A major turning point for Montaigne came during a simple afternoon ride. He was on his horse when a much larger, faster horse crashed into him. The impact was violent. Montaigne was thrown into the air and landed hard on the ground. He lay there, drifting in and out of consciousness. His friends thought he was dead, but in that state of near death, something shifted. He felt a profound sense of lightness. All the things he had spent his life worrying about suddenly seemed irrelevant. He realized that life is fragile and unpredictable. All the obsessive precaution in the world couldn't have stopped that accident. This experience led him to the philosophy of letting go. He began to see that life is not a machine to be operated, but an organism to dance with. When we try to force outcomes, we are fighting against the natural flow of existence. It is like trying to hold back a river with your bare hands. Before we continue into how Montaigne used this wisdom to rebuild his life, subscribe to the channel and tell us in the comments where you are watching from. It helps us keep sharing these stories of wisdom. Montaigne's recovery brought him to a realization about our modern anxiety. He spoke about the phantom tragedies that haunt us. He noted that his life had been full of terrible misfortunes, but most of them never actually happened. Think about your own life. How many hours have you spent paralyzed by fear of a future disaster that never came? We build elaborate scenarios of failure in our minds and suffer through them as if they are real. This habit is what makes us feel lost. We aren't living in our actual lives. We are living in the scary stories we tell ourselves. By accepting that we cannot control the future, we can finally inhabit the present and start living. That persistent feeling of being lost usually comes because we are following a map that was not drawn for us. We spend our lives looking over our shoulders, wondering if we are doing it right in the eyes of others. This is the mask of validation. It is an invisible force that guides every step we take, from the way we talk to the things we choose to buy. Think about how many times you have said yes when you really wanted to say no, or how you have laughed at a joke that was not funny just to fit in. This is not just about being polite. It is about a deep, survival-level need to belong. We fear that if people see who we really are, they will leave us behind. But there is a high price for this safety. The more we wear the mask, the more we lose touch with the person underneath it. Montaigne understood that this desire to please others creates an internal prison. He called it a labyrinth, where we get trapped by our own fears of being judged. When you live for the approval of others, you are constantly building new walls to hide your flaws. You become a stranger to yourself, wandering through corridors of what people expect you to be. In his stone tower, Montaigne started a project to understand his own soul. He began to write down his thoughts, not to win an argument or to become famous, but simply to see who he was. He called these writings essays, which means attempts or trials. He was not trying to be a perfect philosopher, he was just trying to be an honest man. By showing his real self on the page, he started the long process of tearing down the mask. This brings us to a hard truth that many of us face today. The praise we get for our masks never truly satisfies us. If someone tells you how great you are based on a character you have carefully constructed, that praise does not reach your heart. Deep down, you know they are not talking about you. They are talking about the costume you are wearing. This is why you can be surrounded by people who admire you and still feel completely alone. You are receiving false validation. It is like eating food that has no nutrients. You keep chewing, but you never feel full. The real you stays hungry for genuine connection, while the mask gets all the attention. To feel truly seen, you have to be willing to be seen as you are, without the costumes. To fix this, Montaigne suggests an approach he called detachment. People often think detachment means being cold or not caring about anyone. But for Montaigne, it was about clarity. It means looking at your life without the fog of what will they think or how do I look. It is about seeing the difference between what actually deserves your energy and what is just a distraction. Most of the things we worry about are just noise created by the expectations of society. When you practice detachment, you stop letting that noise dictate your mood. You start to see which battles are worth fighting and which ones you can simply walk away from. You realize that you do not owe the world a performance. This leads to the paradox of non-effort. We are taught that we have to fight for everything we want. We have to seek success and happiness as if they are trophies to be won. But Montaigne noticed that when we stop forcing outcomes, things often start to align naturally. This is the shift from seeking to being. When you are constantly seeking, you are telling yourself that you are not enough as you are. You are always looking for the next thing to complete you. But when you move into a state of being, you realize that you are already complete. You stop trying to manipulate life and start participating in it. You find that you get where you need to go much faster when you stop fighting the water. This shift allows you to build an internal home. This is not a physical place, but a state of mind where self-acceptance is so deep that the opinions of others no longer have the power to wound you. Think of it like a sturdy house in a storm. The wind can blow and the rain can fall, but the person inside is safe and dry. When you have this internal home, you do not need the world to tell you that you are okay. You already know it. You stop looking for a place to fit in because you have already found your place within yourself. You become the owner of your own life again. This inner stability is the only way to find peace in a world that is always changing. Montaigne's path to this inner home was not paved with easy days or simple comforts. It was built on a foundation of profound grief and real-world loss. Between the years of his retirement to the tower and the writing of his essays, he faced tragedies that would have broken most people. He watched 5 of his children die in infancy. He also lost his closest friend, Etienne de la Boétie, a man he loved more than anyone else in the world. When Etienne died, a part of Montaigne died with him. He felt a deep, empty space in his life that nothing else could fill. In the face of such overwhelming sadness, most people would turn to bitterness or cynicism. They would close their hearts and decide that the world is a cruel place. But Montaigne chose a different way. He used his pain as a tool for self-study. He did not try to hide his suffering or pretend he was a stoic hero. Instead, he chose realness. He looked at his grief and asked himself what it revealed about the human condition. He realized that we feel lost when we try to deny the reality of death and change. By leaning into his vulnerability, he found a strength that was much more durable than the fake strength of the mask. This leads to what Montaigne believed was the best antidote to the perfectionism that plagues our modern world. We often feel like we have to be consistent all the time. We want to present a version of ourselves that never changes, never fails, and never makes a mistake. But Montaigne argued that inconsistency is a natural part of being alive. He was incredibly honest about his own vanities, his fears, and his contradictions. He wrote about how his opinions would change from one day to the next. He talked about his physical ailments and his lack of memory. He was a human being, not a cold statue. By admitting his flaws so openly, he was performing a liberating act. He was showing us that we do not need to wear armor to be respected. In fact, the armor is what keeps us from truly inhabiting our own lives. When you stop trying to be perfect, you allow your true humanity to take up space. Modern success often tells us that changing our minds is a sign of weakness, or that having flaws is something to be ashamed of. Montaigne challenged this idea. He saw that change and imperfection are the primary signs of life. If you are not changing, you are stagnant. If you are not imperfect, you are not human. This honesty also changes how we look at our relationships. Much of our suffering in love comes from the trap of possessiveness. We try to mold the people we love into what we want them to be. We treat them like objects we own, rather than individuals with their own paths. This creates a weight that eventually breaks the connection. Montaigne had a different ideal, which he called the free link. This was modeled after his friendship with Etienne de la Boétie. When asked why they were so close, Montaigne's famous answer was simply, "Because it was him, because it was me." They shared a soul without chains. They did not demand things from each other. They did not try to control each other's lives. They loved each other without the need for possession. This is the highest form of detachment in a relationship. It means loving someone for who they are, not for how they make you look or what they can do for you. When you love this way, you are no longer lost in the drama of other people's expectations. You are free to be yourself, and you give them the same freedom. It is a bond that survives even death. Wisdom is total intimacy with your own mistakes. Letting go makes you light. Walk freely. Be yourself. Your story begins now.